Welcome back to the European Challenger Series. We're set up and ready for Game 2 between Origin and Reason. What a Game 1 that was, Stress.
Man, I was not expecting even that close a game, which sounds unfair to Reason Gaming. And I don't want to be too unfair, but I think we have to be realistic when we came into the series of what I guess initial thoughts would have been. And looking at the group stage 9-1 as opposed to I think it was 4-6 Reason would end up finishing. You wouldn't have thought that would have been the Game 1 result.
Well, those were the expectations going into this game, but those expectations have been blown out of the water. So from here on out, we can just start talking about what's been happening, because Reason Gaming taking that first game against Origin, and Origin just looked lost. I mean, they went for Baron for 4-5 times.
It felt closer to 10.
Yeah, it was absurd.
Yeah, it just, I mean, Origin had this team comp that was always trying to just land a lot of damage. It was always about how much damage that they were going to do. You saw that with the Gragas top lane, just building full AP. That's not something that particularly has been done too much in current meta. We're in a double tank meta. Gragas can build tank. What use does Gragas having blow-up potential give you when Xpec is on Lissandra and you have a Corki for damage as well?
Yeah, we were talking all the way through the game how Celiva is going to become a major issue. And at the start of the game, I was like, well, it's going to be late game. I mean, we're never going to really reach there, are we? And then we did. And then 50 minutes in, he was just melting everyone with that 4 item AD carry build.
I mean, I guess that's what Origin were thinking as well. They were like, so as you just build damage, it'll be fine. We'll blow them up first, never get there. Well, they got there.
Yeah, Reason Gaming just waited the game out. And that was literally, I think I said at the end, the alternate ending to the Week 2 game, where they did pull it to 50 minutes, but lost the final team fight. They pulled it to 50 minutes and won the final team fight.
I mean, I'm still wondering what Origin were even doing. The Baron. I really don't get it. But we actually wanted to take a look at one of the later game fights. This was after Celiva had scaled his way into the game. This was one of the very final fights where they would ultimately take 3 for 1 in the mid lane. So when we can get that one.
Yeah, we should be getting that up right about now. And yeah, this was, as you mentioned, the final fight in the mid lane.
Oh, this was the one just in front of the inhibitor. This one would pretty much seal the deal because they ended up getting the inhibitor from. But you can see, just look at Celiva's positioning. He even flashes out to just not take any damage at all. And from that beautiful setup from Zayu, right at the beginning of the fight, they easily take this one. Again, Celiva, he sat on top of Mithy at that point, just taking him off the map, not even a scratch on him.
Yeah, and that was really a serious issue because once the comp got rolling, we said it multiple times throughout the mid-game, you try and get to Celiva, there's a Svajani in the way, there's a Hecarim, there's a Janna to peel in the back line, she's going to rocket jump away, she has Buster Shot, there's just like so many things to stop you from getting to her, and they didn't even, as we mentioned, break that Bloodthirster shield in the last team fight.
And one of the weirdest things that honestly just, I don't get is that Origin would trade even in a fight, or maybe the tiniest bit ahead, and then go, okay, let's Baron. When, like, the enemy jungler's alive, their jungler's dead, everybody's pretty much full health, nobody's low on the enemy team, so it's not like you've got the position to do it. They're like, yeah, let's just go Baron. And the biggest story of this game, Niels and Celiva seem to swap places. Because Niels 1, 2, and 4. That's not Niels. I mean,
opposite town. Pretty much, yeah. They basically swapped places, and props to Celiva. I mean, we're talking about him being a quiet AD carry, but he was the one who really drove it home in the late game. 6-0-6, 0 deaths in that game. As good as you can get for an AD carry, you know?
I mean, what else would we want from Celiva? If there's ever a time to show up more than you have already been doing, this would be it. Because, I mean, now Reason are 1 game away from a grand finals, which at a minimum secures them a shot at the LCS.
Well, we're going to get into Champion Select and see how these teams set up for this next game, Stress. And We'll see what the banned champions are going to be, but it was so funny we were talking about the 4th seed being a death sentence going up against Origin, and Reason Gaming have turned that one around for sure. First banned champion will be the Lulu, so again, potentially denying a Juggernaut composition from Origin. Yes, it's a coin flip, and yes, apparently Origin like coin flipping themselves a lot, specifically around the Baron area, but that will be taking another unknown factor off the table. Fizz will be taken away from Kuban in the top lane, maybe in even the mid lane as well. We've seen some of that, but LeBlanc will also come away from Xpeke, same as first game.
Yeah, same 3 bans so far to begin this set. I wonder whether we're going to see any change-ups on the bans, ban anything from last game. I don't think the Tristana itself is worth a ban when you look at it. I think maybe they could look at banning the Hecarim, because remember, even though Soaz got the first blood, he struggled against Kuban up in that top lane, and they didn't really feel comfortable in that. Hecarim was always dealing damage, always in another lane, and as yet, no Hecarim ban out, or no at least real prominence. Kuban, his Irelia is banned away though.
Yes, yeah, as you mentioned, Irelia has been taken away by Origin for Kuban, because Kuban is a big Irelia player. You don't want him getting his hands on that champion. Maokai again banned out against Soaz.
Interestingly, Irelia wasn't banned last game though. I guess it's because Reason have first pick this time, so that would be a fairly easy first pick for them.
Yes, and also they were looking specifically for the Hecarim. Again, we'll see if they ban that out. It would make sense, but it would be 3 bans towards the top lane.
It means either Nidalee or Zed from the last game are going to be available. One of those 2 bans from Origin has now changed, so the question is what becomes available, and actually both of them are available.
Okay, so where does Kuban go from here?
They give a take fun, Zed. Right here,
yeah, it's open.
His Zed.
Yeah.
This is what Take Fun does.
Yeah,
like as
Zed, LeBlanc, Fizz.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, there we go. There's the lock-in. I was just thinking, what do they pick? Nidalee's available? No, it's Reason Gaming. It's Take Fun. He loves his assassins. That's it. End of story.
Glad we caught that one before.
Yeah, man, that is. But that's a big power pick, because Take Fun played pretty well last game. He had a couple of deaths to his name, but generally played the whole game out fairly well. This time you're putting him on a champion that he's even more comfortable with. Yeah. That's a dangerous play by Origin.
It is. I rate Take Fun as a very strong Zed, and I think a lot of mid lanes have to respect that. It did, of course, put them on to picking that first pick, so Peke didn't take it away from them, but we'll see what Origin do to respond to this. There's a lot of junglers open. Gragas is open, Svajani's open, Nidalee's open. There's a lot in the jungle for them to go for. And essentially, Origin have the pick of the litter depending on what they want here. Also, they can wait out on the mid lane as they know Zed's going to be in there, so they prioritize the Janna maybe. Yes, it will be. And they go for the Gragas. Okay. Again, it could be top lane.
It could be, but they're going hard disengage regardless of where they're playing it. I don't think they'll put it top lane just because Soaz... I don't want to say he didn't look comfortable, the item build didn't work for what Origin needed. It worked for what they thought they wanted, but certainly didn't work out for them for the game as a whole. Origin haven't had a whole lot of success with Gragas. Gragas was the champion that Amazing was playing against Lord Lions when they played it into Nidalee and got behind. Didn't work out from that game either. We talked with Amazing about Gragas and Sejuani a little bit when he was here in the studio for LCS, and he said they were fairly even, but didn't look at last game when... last game, sorry, it was Gragas top, but when Amazing has been playing Gragas, it hasn't looked so sharp.
Yeah, bottom line, Origin, Gragas do not mix, does not blend. We'll see what Reason Game will be coming in for here. It looks like it will be the Rumble for the top lane, Swajani as well for the jungle, so we will have those 2 junglers coming into this one. And yeah, in that game, actually, the one you were referencing, that's the one they ran Cog with the heavy disengage. So they do have the potential to pick a high damage AD carry like a Jinx, like a Cogmore here.
So the composition coming out from Reason Gaming right now is set up to be a very strong 1-4 situation where you've got Zed over in one lane and you look at a Sejuani and a Rumble. Those are 2 champions that are going to want to team fight when it comes to a 4 versus 4. Those 2 ultimates very difficult to deal with. However, the disengage out from Origin is problematic already. I wonder whether picking a composition that wants to fight against that is the smartest thing to do.
Yes, I'm also interested to see where they really focus the rest of the picks in terms of where they'll have their power spikes, because a Corki, mid-game. Last time mid-game, they didn't make enough happen in that mid-game. Will they go later game? They pick a Morgana again, which would maybe even suggest that.
Yeah, and Morgana, this will likely go top lane now, would actually be really smart. This denies a whole bunch of the split push potential that Take Fun will have on Zed. Tormented Soil, very good at burning down waves. Once you get a Zhonya's on Morgana as well, you basically don't die to Zed as well. So there's a lot of potential here for Origin to deny the split push, and that makes Take Fun Z a lot more difficult to get to work.
Okay, so let's see where everything else is going to be going in this one. They do hover the cog. We'll see if that actually comes through. They have a fairly decent front line. What will they pair with it? That's the other question. So Take Fun in the mid lane. He'll be going up against, well, question marks still currently over the heads of Reason Gaming and what he'll be facing in that mid lane. And this will be an interesting bot lane if they do decide to lock it in. But so far, there's a lot of engagement from Reason Gaming. They have a pretty decent team fight. The question is it enough of a front line if they do lock in the cog?
It's a good question. It's a little bit worrying because there's no top lane tank.
Yes.
Either. So, I mean, they have a lot of damage. They don't have anything like a Lulu, so that is now locked in with the Cogmore. Another new champion here for Celever. Tristana last game did very well on a scaling AD carry. What exactly do Origin pick here? They need something that will scale. That is, otherwise they'll fall into exactly the same trap that they fell into in the last game, and then in that they couldn't get later into the game without Reason running all over them. And it has to be likely from the mid lane here as well.
Maybe Cass is open.
Orianna, Kassadin would scale well into the late game. Cassiopeia would be as well. Something that will get to the late game and can still actually output damage.
Well, that is a late game champion, if you want one. Typically, we see it in the top lane, though.
Typically, there was a game in LCK last week, where there, or maybe two, where there was a Vladimir in the mid lane. And
wow,
it has been locked in, so it does scale. Not a whole bunch of anything like crowd control that's going to come from that, so it will be difficult to lock down the Cogmore later into the game, especially with all the Nami speed-ups and everything like that. But so Origin right now, they have, I guess, a fairly decent comp when it comes to... Actually, they've got a lot of magic damage. I was about to say a decent comp, but they have so much magic damage right now, whereas Reason Gaming, they've got a good mix. They've got magic damage, they've got AD, they've got physical scaling as well. If Take Fun gets ahead, Origin are going to struggle a little bit here.
I can see the strengths in both comps, but I can see the obvious flaws as well. Like, you look at Reason, and the cog is kind of out in the open. You know, there's however, on the side of Origin, there's not a lot to get to that exposed cog. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out, because there's no clear like battle plan. It's like, we're going to jump on cog, we're going to kill him. It's like, well, we're going to try and just fight out the team fight, and hopefully Xpeke can do something on Vlad. But if you spot a big play in this game, or in the first game as well, make sure to tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag #ChallengerBigPlays, and we could read your response on the broadcast. However, yesterday, your big play came from our second game between Lowland Lions and Gamers 2, and it came in from Benny Cold Dream, who said, Ica going ham on Lowland Lions. This is your most talked about Challenger Big Play. But that is a 3 for 2, and Lowland Lions are still looking to keep up the assault.
And they can't be that over-aggressive.
Ica Johnson! He gets free with his distortion! Unreal! Yeah, just capitalizing on the mistake from Lowland Lions.
I said it at the time. Everybody saw them grouped. Ica saw it, Lowland Lions saw it. So maybe not the most subtle of big plays, but certainly cool. Ica will capitalize on that.
Yeah. So if you see another play like that today, make sure to get those tweets in, again, using the hashtag #ChallengerBigPlays. And hopefully Origin pull out a big play in this game, because they need to. They are backs against the wall. If they lose this game, they're down to the third place game. Reason go up into the grand finals next week. And we're going to see how this one works out as we get into game. As we do swap up, it will be Origin now into the red-hand side, with Reason Gaming, the winner of the first game, going to the blue-hand side. And they'll be looking to storm out of the base. Dark Riders for Johnny coming into this one. Do have Cogmore as well. We'll see how this game turns out. Vladimir is a very interesting pick. I remember when we were spitballing ideas in the office a couple of weeks ago, like, well, okay, now that we have the tanks coming into the meta, could we see later game champions? Could we even see a Vladimir? Because, of course, he'll get that time to farm into the late game.
I've never really seen Xpeke play a whole bunch of Vladimir, though. Or at least, if it would have been, it would be somewhere deep in the annals of time in Season 2. But certainly haven't seen him play it a whole bunch since, for a good few years, actually. So you have to think he would have practiced it. You wouldn't just randomly pick it. So we have been seeing the re-emergence of Vladimir, though.
Yeah,
that
for
is
sure.
one thing to note.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of top laners, in fact, have been playing it more in the solo queue. I've been spotting a couple teams been playing it in ranked 5s and such, but never really in the mid game or the mid lane just yet. Again, we have seen some of it, but We'll see if it works, see if that's the magic ingredient that Origin need as they aggress heavily into the jungle of Reason Gaming. Selova going to be waddling over to this lane. We'll get the ward down, and pings left, right, and center will be alerting both of the teams to where those wards are.
I also haven't seen too much of the Vladimir against Zed matchup, but I feel like it's a matchup that as long as Zed doesn't get too far ahead, you should be able to just vamp a lot of life back during his ultimate and make it a lot more difficult.
Oh, that ward is
Kuban
too
gets
close to the tower.
Also, it allows Vlad to be one of the only champions that can actually start Cloth 5 against Zed, because you don't rely on any kind of mana, you don't really need anything else, because you don't have mana as Vladimir, so you just get to spam spells all the time.
Not bad.
And have a lot of potions, but we'll see how it works out. We'll see what Xpeke decides to do in this middle lane.
Well, Kuban thought he had the better of Reason game, where he walked over another ward which was placed at that base gate from the upper base gate. And maybe Selova will head into the bot lane here, but again, he also walks over that ward near the base gate, so they'll know where he's going. And again, there's lots of movement in this early game for both of the teams trying to get the lanes where they want them to. And now Livic's going back to base, and he'll be going to the bot lane. Shut up, Nami.
Between your bad maths yesterday and shut up, Nami, am I casting with Doa now?
Maybe. I mean, have you transformed into him?
I don't know.
References.
Mid lane.
Take Fun heading onto Xpeke here. He is getting under that 50% mark, so we will be able to get that extra damage from Contempt for the week, which is, of course, his passive. Amazing into the jungle here. We'll be clearing out these raptors, probably smiting them as well, which will get him that razor-sharp buff to just chill in the jungle like he likes to do so. And that is Kuban now going into the top lane against Soaz. So, with all that lane swapping, we've eventually just settled on normal lanes.
Yeah, standard lanes. Awesome. Great. That is exactly what we were looking for. But at this point, my mind is instantly going to, is Soaz going to be building Banner of Command like he did last time on Morgana, because they had trouble with their wave management in the last game. So maybe. That's a long way down the road, though. And bot lane, that's a nice Howling Gale out by Mithy. And this is one of the weaknesses now of Cog, is that his laning phase, if he is able to be pressured out, he will get fairly far behind. He'll hit a Triforce theoretically later than Corki will. So it's all on Niels to, once again, this time on Corki, needs to turn it around.
Yes, so Selova now farming underneath the turret. He should be able to even up this CS, and both of those bot laners from Origin are going back to base. We'll see if they swap into the top lane now, or they just want something specific in the early game. Mana Pot now picked up by Niels, so really just going for that lane and trying to apply that pressure and make sure they shut down the Cog more. In the mid lane, though, we've got that Zed, we've got that Vladimir matchup, and Vladimir seems to be getting the better of Take Fun. He is significantly ahead in farm, 26-16, but I don't think he's out of the fight just yet. Take Fun Zed is nothing really to relax about.
Yes, you should never take it lightly. But honestly, something along those lines. It's all good. Take Fun's waiting till 6, basically. Yes, he doesn't want to get too far behind, but oh, that was amazing. Really wanted that. He smites that down. Okay.
Got it.
So
well
I
built,
mean,
you know.
As long as he goes back now, that's actually not too bad. If he's smiting it and then recalling it to get his jungle item, it's actually... Is he invading?
Maybe trying to... No.
Okay, now he's going to recall. I was going to say, if you smite Crab and the enemy jungler sees it and then you go and invade...
Rift Spirit spotted him.
Wow, okay.
Ooh, Peke, though, taking some damage with the Ignite. Take Fun following up with the Slash as well, the Shadow Slash. And now he'll go back to those minions and start clearing them out. So he's evening up the farm total as the next minion wave heads into Xpeke. But Peke still has his Flash, still has his Ghost. He's not in such an awful situation, but he has burnt through all of his pots already.
And that's a really interesting Ignite as well, because remember, Ignite would have cut the healing from Xpeke if Take Fun were to go in when he hits 6. So what this kind of tells me is Take Fun is looking to shove Peke in, and then maybe look to roam to get the kill, because I don't know why he'd use Ignite this early on in this laning phase, because he's now got a good few minutes where he's not going to be able to just go in at 6 on Peke anymore.
Origin are going ham on their vision control, though. Take a look at Miffy sitting on a ward, but top lane, jungle, both got pink wards, both got normal wards as well, and they're starting to swap up their trinkets, really trying to get that early vision, maybe try and go for an early dragon or something, but try and keep on top of their vision game as well as their control over this game. And while they kind of did have that, they had a small advantage in the last game, they were never able to drive it home. And again, that's what I'm scared for with this composition. I mean, like, Vladimir doesn't peak in the mid game, he peaks in the late game.
Yeah, it's a long way off Vladimir reaching any kind of peak, and Vlad out of potions now has to be a little bit more respectful of Zed. The same as the reverse. The reverse is the same. Depends how you reverse things, I guess. But at this point, I mean, you've just got to be careful in this mid lane is what I'm trying to say, but I botched it hard.
Yep, I know what you're saying.
My brain, my brain is not working from
what's
that last game.
In the bot lane because Zoaz comes in, teleports out. That is the Soul Shackles onto Celiva and Libic as well. Amazing follows up with the bonk. There's the first blood onto Niels. That's Zoaz following up with the auto attack damage. On top of that, that was also Celiva trying to get his Icathian surprise onto Niels as he backs off to his turret. And that is an early advantage to Origin, and they're going to try and convert this into this dragon. 7% now turns into 12% for Reason Gaming, so that is a net gain. Good job.
That's a good job. That's actually quite a significant gain as well when you look at the percentage. But Origin should be able to take this first dragon of the game for themselves. So it was Reason in the last game that were the ones to take it. And teleport advantage is, however, in favor of Reason for a while now. They have Rumble with teleport available, so we'll see whether they actually can make use of that.
So let's take a look down the scoreboard as everyone has gone back to base and has started turning those pieces of gold into items. And the bot lane still had that advantage to Niels over Celiva, which is somewhat to be expected. Cog is not the greatest laner in Runeterra, but the mid lane is fairly similar as well, 55 to 56, top lane 45 to 44. Very, very similar, and everyone has started to pick up glimpses of what they could be going for their items. Celiva has picked up the Phage. The only thing that builds into is Triforce. And in the bot lane again, Niels looking also towards a potential Trinity Force. And Take Fun will be taking the blue buff.
This is an interesting one. 8-minute lane swap coming out from Origin. They put their bot lane up to, well, it would have been bot lane. Corki's gone mid. Vladimir's gone top. Janna's with her. So complete lane change here.
Musical
from
lanes.
Origin. Yeah. Let's hope the music doesn't stop. Maybe that's why Gragas has that accordion.
Oh,
as soon as he
yeah.
stops playing, it's like, change lanes. But
he did just go back
he's
to base,
done
so
it again.
okay,
they've inverted the map just very slowly.
Australian lanes.
Australian lanes, yeah. Exactly. But Reason Gaming right now don't really care for what they're doing with the lanes. They just said, okay, well, we'll shove out mid and put our AD carry, or our support top lane with our top laner. There's a lot that's happened in this last minute or so from lane swaps, but Origin is still ahead in the gold. Peke finds himself once again with Take Fun in his lane. This time he's got that the Hextech Revolver.
Oh, yeah.
Do not see that often. Mid lane.
He will be ticking down, goes into the Sanguine pool. Will be flashing after him as well. Will be Take Fun. Amazing now comes into it, and he's gone. He is back to his lane, and he is able just to carry on farming it out. So good timing by Amazing to come into this. And Peke should be able to get back to healthy HP with that Hextech Revolver.
Yeah, Take Fun trades his Flash Ignite and ult for the Ghost and the ultimate from Peke here. So leaves Take Fun without a kill to his first ult there. That is not something he would have been really wanting from that trade. He really should have been getting a kill from that first ultimate. Niels taking a lot of damage here. Bubble landed.
Equalizer as well. He's now into his overheated form, trying to get those auto attacks down, which will be amplified by his passive. Junkyard Titan. But doesn't quite get in range with the Valkyrie coming out from Niels. Still had his flash, just in case things went south. Zayu now into the bottom river will be taking away the crab and also taking away this pink ward. So that's 50 gold plus 30 gold. It's a lot of gold.
That is a lot of gold. Oh, my maths has been not so great today, but what has been great today is Reason Gaming. When you look at that last game as well and how they're controlling this game as well. Kog'Maw is now ahead in CS of Niels. That's a big factor now because Cog should have been pressured out in this early game, and Cog may be able to reach a 24 at a roughly the same kind of time that Niels should get it. They're about 200 gold between each other, so the race is on still, but the fact that they've lane swapped up in the top lane for Origin is just allowing Kog'Maw to scale into this game even easier.
Yeah, Cogmore will scale up. Again, it's a question of whether he can stay alive, but they don't have a whole lot of dive onto him, apart from Amazing landing a good ultimate onto him. Talking about Amazing, he has gone for that Cinderhulk on top of his Stalker's Blade. From here, we have seen him go Righteous Glory on top of that as his second item. Hasn't built towards anything just yet, though.
Nothing yet. We will have to keep an eye on that. But over on the other side, Sejuani with the Sight Stone. And, Bubble does land again on Niels. These bubbles have actually been pretty good out of Libic so far.
As long as he can keep them up. I mean, we know his Fresh is also very good, but as long as he can keep them up, then they should be able to get those picks, which will pull them further ahead. Amazing sitting in this bottom bush, which has been warded out, but Zayu is on his way, as he has been alerted by his presence. Miffy, by sitting in the bush, acting as a ward, will be seeing out Zayu as well. Zayu has that Razor Sharp buff, so he knows that he didn't go past any wards, but he didn't realize that Janna was a ward.
No, that would be a little bit annoying if it popped on that. But Amazing now down in this bottom lane, has his ult again, as you said. Items picked up in the mid lane as well. Osika's Arm Guard has been picked up by Xpeke, so looking for that Zonya's Hourglass will keep him safe against take funds.
In the top lane, comes out with the Equalizer. Soaz as well with the ultimate. Got a little bit musical there for some reason. Not too sure why. Clearing out this minion wave. And it looks like Zayu is pulling back for now. Doesn't seem to want to go in for this.
So they saw Amazing recall.
Yeah.
And Zayu has his ultimate. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't go for that.
It would have been a 3-on-2. It would have been an ultimate pinning down the recalling Miffy and also Niels. In the mid lane, though, he's maybe using his ultimate for this one instead. Expected still has his flash, remember. He will be waiting for the ultimate to come down. There it is. It whiffs, only gets that 30% slow. Zayu not reading from the same hit machine as Take Fun, however, because he jumps in with the Arctic Assault. Now has to flash away. Miffy with the bird to the retreating ball will take him out.
Yeah, Miffy will pick up that kill. And honestly, Xpeke looked to be in a lot of trouble there, but the fact that he's running dual mobility summoners, he's got Ghost and Flash, allows him to get out and Take Fun. Saw what was coming from Miffy being there and Amazing, and kind of leaves Zayu high and dry in that situation. Zayu didn't quite land the ult either because of the extra mobility from Xpeke, so a bit of a botched mid lane attempt there. Leads in favor of Origin. Origin now nearly 2,000 gold up as the second dragon has spawned.
Yeah, they can't afford to continue these blunders. Reason Gaming, they do have that one game advantage, but they need to keep it rolling because Origin, they will just turn on a dime and come back into this. They're on this dragon currently, will be smited away by Amazing. Not too difficult to get that one away. Libic lands his Akka Prison onto the retreating Amazing. Celiva, now those auto attacks from the Bioarcane Barrage. Niels potentially under attack. He does have his Valkyrie just in case. Now they'll take this opportunity to take away this pink. Reason Gaming just trying to regroup, trying to go for this blue buff as well, perhaps try and get the smite down. It will go over to Zayu this time around. So they don't get the dragon, but they do get the blue buff. Now Reason Gaming have to rethink their ideas.
Yeah, Origin will be fine with that. They'll then it's not too important that they get the blue buff. I mean, Vlad doesn't use mana, so it would purely be for the cooldowns. Amazing would have maybe liked it just to get the cooldown on his ult lower, but to be honest, it's a small price to pay for a second dragon of the game. And that's one thing Origin really can't say about the last game, is there was no real dragon control, or at least dragon dominance out of Origin. We got to a point where both teams had 3 dragons apiece, so that wasn't really there as a factor to look to win the game from getting 5 dragons and kind of just rolling over their opponents. So Origin are on track for that this game with their second before the 15-minute mark, so it's a good spot for them to be in.
Yeah, and taking a look at the items once again, at the same time of that fight, Origin did actually have some pretty big item advantages. The Cinderhulk that we mentioned earlier, but also the Trinity Force from Corki, the Morellonomicon from Morgana, so they were in a much better position than Reason Gaming, whose Celiva only just picked up his own Trinity Force.
Yeah, only just as well. But one thing I want to kind of make a note of is before we get too deep into this game is actually if Origin get to 4 dragons, this is one of the only times that the 4th dragon spike is actually going to be fairly integral to a team composition, because the added minion damage actually gives Vladimir a fair amount more ability to split push. He gets a lot more sustain from it. He can take fights in amongst minions a lot better because of his Tides of Blood. You just do more damage, get more health back, and just generally that's a good little part for Vladimir. It adds to his kit a tiny bit, but but if Origin can get to that 4th dragon, that'll be very good for XPeke.
Yeah, back when Dragon and the buffs were turned around, when it was the 2nd buff, we actually saw a bit of Vladimir because of that, but then that got changed to the 4th buff. So 2nd buff is now the tower pushing damage instead. Let's take a look at how the bot lane's doing. Slight advantage now to Seliver. Holding my fort for a second is amazing. Just not land his ultimate onto the retreat of Zayu with the Arctic Assault. In this case, it was the Arctic Retreat. And in the bot lane, Seliver's actually now ahead of Niels, who was ahead of him earlier into the game. So that's a big catch-up in terms of gold. And now overtaking the Corki. Libic, though, that's a lot of damage from the fast bomb ultimate as well. He'll be Valkyrying away, because that is an absurd amount of damage coming in from Seliver as well. There is the tidal wave. It lands onto the backside of Miffy. He'll be following up as well, looking to try and get the Equalizer down. It does split them away. It takes down Miffy. Oh, the Void Ooze lands onto Niels as he gets away from this fight. And the Electro Harpoon nets the double kill for Kuban.
Again, Origin are not timing out Reason Gaming's abilities. They didn't have the timer on the Nami ultimate or the teleport from what it looked like. Otherwise, you really wouldn't take that engage. XPeke wants to go in. Ghost has been popped.
Yeah, he's going in with a Sanguine Pool as well. Gives him an extra bit of movement speed. And as the ultimate, the Hemo Plague, will be eventually proccing off onto those 2 targets. Oh, amazing. Trying to get into these Raptors as well. Probably smiting those again. And Zayu, though, he wants these.
The fight over the Razor buff.
Nope.
Amazing. Got it. Oh, but it's instantly popped. That's always a sad time.
Yeah, but he still gets a ward.
Yeah, he still gets it. Did he actually kill a ward from that? Oh, okay. I thought it was the one on... because there were 2 that were very close.
Yeah, indeed.
So.
It was the one by the...
but the main thing they got was the turret.
Yes,
that's a lot bigger a prize than a ward.
We were like talking about the big Raptor, and it's like, yeah, the main thing was the mid turret that went down to Origin, which they did manage to get onto their side. Now 1 turret apiece, plus those 2 dragons. Pretty low kill game, honestly, compared to both the last game and the last semi-final that we saw. Playing it a lot more calculated. And we can really just see the decisions tick over in the brains of the team rather than just like, let's go fight and see what happens.
Yeah, at this point in the last game, it was 5 kills to 4, I believe. It was still a fairly slow-paced game. This one is even more composed, but I wouldn't really expect too much more with a Vladimir and a Kog'Maw in this game, especially when you take into account that both of these teams are going to look to split push at one point or another. Peke, that wasn't the best of trades against Take Fun. Ignite will cut the healing.
Yeah, he comes in with the Death Mark as well, the Sanguine Pull. There comes the last Shurikens coming across. Peke will be dropping fairly low from that and has to burn his flash. Hemo Play coming back up in a couple of seconds. So Take Fun in a one-on-one is still able to deal with Vlad.
Yeah, Vlad with that Sanguine Pool, very efficient at dodging a lot of the damage. And take into account he's only a couple of 100 gold away from his Zonya's Hourglass as well. So that should mean that Take Fun can't really do too much to Vladimir, but they still have to be careful with how much damage Zed can do against Niels, Miffy, and Amazing. But honestly, a Zed being 0-0-0 at nearly 20 minutes is not exactly what you want from a Zed. We sung Take Fun's praises. He hasn't shown up yet.
Stress yet. Yeah. Libic and Zayu now heading into this bottom, or upper river, but the bottom side of it, or the top side, what am I trying to say? Zayu is now heading back into his jungle, that's for certain. So as though is sitting in the river. He has been spotted out by this pink ward. Kuban will be doing zoning duties and pushing Soaz away, who is still sat on top of a different ward this time. But as you mentioned, in the mid lane, there is still an advantage to XPeke, who had that in the laning phase. Our bottom lane has stabilized with their CS. Top lane, slight CS advantage to Soaz, but both of these top lanes have been roaming so much that they've not really just been sitting in lane against each other. Now this dragon has spawns, and Origin are the ones to command their lead over it. They're going to try and take this one away from Reason Gaming, but they are here to contest it. This may be the first major fight of the game as the Talaway comes over the wall, comes in with the Bowler as well to try and get this kill down. It will be outsmited by Amazing, who may be in turn taken out by Take Fun. He also gets tagged up by the Hemo Plague, and there's the Soul Shackles. He'll jump away from it using his ultimate right into the jaws of Peke, who takes him out. Libic over the wall. There's the Monsoon, a triple bubble. If there was only something to follow up, then it would have been fantastic.
It would have been. I mean, man, that could have been a big misplay out by Origin, but Origin get the 3rd dragon of the game. They are on a good track here, as every time it has respawned, they've got it. I want to take note of one thing, actually, and that's that Amazing, he didn't sweep as the dragon was dying, and it was a little bit risky not to sweep when you've seen a ward go down in the back of the Dragon Pit. Just maybe head's not quite in exactly the right spot. I don't want to criticize too much because Amazing is still doing quite well, but it's the little things like that that will distinguish teams between dominating teams and you know, just being ahead.
It's also the little things that add up over time.
Yeah.
Because last game it was not really the little things, it was them just going for Baron, which was a very big thing as it came into the late game. But this time, yeah, again, all those little mistakes do add up into deaths, a couple kills here and there, a couple towers, a couple objectives, which ultimately lead to the game. And Reason Gaming, this game have not been as commanding as last game, but they're still pretty even. If you look at the goal totals as well, this is very similar to how it was last game, with Origin being slightly ahead, but not dominatingly ahead.
And speaking of gold, this is a great time for Xpeki to back. He just had 1,600 gold. It's going to turn into a Zhonya's Hourglass, I have to imagine.
Nope, it's going to be Will of Ancients.
Whoa, okay, it's both.
And both.
It has been a long, long time since we have seen a Will of the Ancients.
It's been changed so many times as well.
It has. So now it bestows 20% Spell Vamp as a unique passive, 10% cooldown reduction, and 80 ability power. So it fits with everything that Vladimir wants.
Yeah, I remember when that thing was an aura and we used to see double AP comps.
God, I remember
which
that.
This is also a double AP comp, but it's not.
Feels more
it's
like,
not a buff,
like a
so.
quad AP comp when you look at it.
Yeah.
Which actually Origin have had a fair amount of success with when they stack a lot of AP, but last game didn't really go so well for them when they had full AP top lane, and this time Morgana lends herself a little bit more utility perhaps than the Gragas did in the last game, but it's Reason that are pushing a turret here in the middle lane. Zayu's been caught, Niels has been caught.
He gets caught out by the Acro Prison, that's the follow-up with the Equalizer, doesn't hit anyone though. The Soul Shackles lands onto Rumble, he'll have to flash away from that. So it's a very valuable ultimate coming in from Soaz. Take for now to the top lane, he'll be going one-on-one with Peke, but it is Amazing turning into a 1v2. Sanguine Pool comes out, he's invulnerable, and Take for will return with the damage with the Shadow Slash. It's not enough with the Razor Shurikens, and Peke gets away scot-free, and he will just vamp up to full HP again. So much vamp from the Will of Ancients.
So much vamp tanking that's going to come on in this game, but Origin at this point, they got a tad fortunate in the middle lane that Kubon, his ult whiffed completely, went straight down the middle of the lane and didn't actually hit anybody. That's going to result in a second turret in that top lane going down in favor of Origin. This is now a much bigger lead than they had just a couple of minutes ago before that mid lane passage of playing. Origin were about this far ahead in the last game. This is about as far ahead as they got, and they couldn't close it out. This time they have a lot better scaling when it comes to their Vladimir. Is it enough?
And Dragons are still a way to win for them, because last game it was 2-2 at this time. Now it's 3-0 for Origin. So if they get the next one, they can really just start pressuring Reason Gaming to try and contest for the 5th. And this is very early into the game as well to have those 3 dragons. They took a very early one, and I've just been taking every single one since.
You can see, however, that Origin aren't particularly concerned with Take Fun at this point, and they really have no reason to be, as he's 0-2-0. No real armor itemization outside of that Zhonya's Hourglass, but Celeber playing a little bit risky, stepping forward to deal damage to the turret, and Janna being there should be enough to signal them back. But Reason Gaming is still looking active on the map. Even though they're behind, they're not just rolling over, and they didn't in the last game, and it's what kept them in and gave them that first win of the series. Origin still have to win 2 games if they want any chance of getting into the the automatic playoff spot.
Yeah, so now the crab will be taken this time by Amazing, unless Zai really wants to use his smite, but not really. With a dragon on the horizon, 1 minute and 20 to go. Let's take a look at some of the more items that have been picked up. Leandri's now finished by Kubon. Let's see what he's looking for next. He does have the makings of an Abyssal Scepter, so it looks like that'll be the case. Going full into that spell penetration from all of his items. Mid lane, Take Fun has finished his Blade of the Ruin King, which gets amped up by his ultimate as well, followed by the Brutalizer and his Hex Drinker.
One of the issues that Reason Gaming are going to have is their fighting, or the time that they can fight is going to rely heavily on Take Fun here. Because normally with a mid laner you'd see at least the option to build a Morellonomicon. Zed obviously doesn't give you that, neither does Rumble in the top lane. Xpeki is looking to go in, but without the reduced healing as Vladimir drops low, they're only relying on Take Fun's Ignite. And that is the only time that they'll be able to fight Xpeki the longer this game goes. And that was a teleport cancelled out by Kubon.
Yeah, he is sitting in the mid lane, maybe trying to collapse in onto Xpeke, but he's very slippery, very difficult to get down as Amazing comes in from the bot-hand side, gets the ultimate onto Zai, who is already dropping low from SOAS, and the constant bombardment by Niels, who comes across with his own missile barrage. Now Amazing heading into the bottom side of the river, because this is the dragon now spawning in just 2 seconds, and this fight will follow down into this dragon area.
Ooh. Kuban wants to try and fight this. Ultimate is still available. So as he's in the top lane, does have his teleport. He will just Tormented Soil the top wave away. Peke's found Take Fun. That's a lot of damage already. And we're in this weird situation where Zed has to deny the split push. Here comes the teleport coming in.
Oh, Kuban, he just got the ultimate down, but again, it whiffs and doesn't hit anybody. Xpeke is on the back lines, and he just shreds everybody down. There's the double kill for Amazing. Take Fun over the wall, arrives to the party too late.
This is how you Baron.
Libic is now backing off. This is what you should have done last game. You get a couple kills, then you go for Baron. 3 and 0 is the time to do so. This is a lot cleaner than their decision making.
So we doubted the ability of Xpeke to get to the Cogmore. The fact of the matter is, with Ghost and Flash available and the pool, he can kind of just go under and through the team fight and get there. However, they have to be careful that Take Fun doesn't just come in and deal a lot of damage here. That's a Baron going over. Remember, this was a similar kind of time that Origin took Baron in Game 1 as well. What do they do with it from here? Their 4-on-1 should be fairly strong now that Vladimir can do whatever he wants against this Zed, and the rest of the team now has the Baron buff on top.
Yeah, this should have been their performance from Game 1, but as long as they can take this game, then it will be down to the wire. Essentially becomes a best of 1 between these two teams. That final game will determine it, but Reason Gaming are not out of it just yet, even though Peke is becoming a serious threat for them.
So I was going to touch on this just before the Dragon fight. We're in a very kind of almost ironic situation where Take Fun, who would normally want to be split pushing on Zed, has to now stop the split push on Xpeke, but he actually can't do anything against Xpeke. As soon as he ultimates in on Zed, Vladimir either Zhonya's or pools or just, you know, gets all of his health back again, just using his skills. And Xpeke is very strong now that he's hit level 16.
Yeah, he's 3 items, plus his boots as well. He's gone for the distortion, so both his summoners will benefit from that, which is just fantastic. We'll be taking down this minion wave in the bottom lane here. Celever will try to take it out from long range. These Baron buff minions will become a problem. This big cannon minion shooting down the turret from long range. Don't really have anything to deal with it. It's going to take a lot of living artilleries to take it out.
It is, and Origin step up to the plate. Ooh, Niels.
This is the 4v5 though, because SOAS is not with them. He's in the mid lane, so
no
Origin
teleport.
do not want to go for this fight while he's in the mid lane pushing. Going to play it a little safer now. Libic did take a bunch of damage. Now there was a cycle into the mid lane and try and push this one in as well. And they should be able to take this inner turret with not too many difficulties.
Ooh, it whiffed.
Yeah. The ultimate coming through does not land, but a great binding onto Celeber. He'll be ticking down. They have to go for the engage off the back of this as Take Fun comes in with the death mark. Niels follows up with his own damage, and Amazing from the back lines was trying to deal with Celeber. He actually drops him very, very low. I'm not sure if he wants to do anything else, but Xpeke doesn't have either of his summoners. He'll just be tanking this turret, doing a little bit of damage to it as well, but everyone is so critically low from Reason Gaming. They all have to go back to base, and they have to just forfeit their middle turret.
Yeah, this is what Origin couldn't do in the last game, and that is push the first inhibitor of the game. Very smartly, Xpeke went bottom lane, pushed bottom lane while that fight was happening, because they knew they could disengage just using Janna and Gragas if they absolutely had to. And now Origin can swing down there. They're just going to shove this into the tower. I don't know whether it would be a wise move to keep pushing here for Origin. They are still a little bit chunked from the last fight in Reason Gaming. Although they are waiting on ultimates, admittedly, there isn't actually a whole lot that Reason can do to defend this other than clear waves out.
Yeah, Origin are mostly chunked in terms of their mana pools. Amazing is fairly low, so is SOAS, so is Niels and Miffy. Peke doesn't suffer that problem because he's Vladimir, but he is still very strong in these fights. Constant tides of blood will come out if he can just get into the middle of the team, which should be fairly easy because it's been quite a while since the last major team fight. So not only is his Ghost up, but his Flash should be up in just a couple seconds, so he will be able to reach that back line. And if they're all stuck in one place, if SOAS lands his ultimate and seals them all down with his Soul Shackles, again, Amazing can keep them in place. Xpeke, he just needs a couple seconds with the team, and they're all going to die.
Couple of seconds, and something else that'll add to them all dying very quickly is that elixir of sorcery that he's just picked up. It means that first Tides of Blood, if he can get that right in between everybody, he's just going to deal added true damage to everybody as well. So they're going to die pretty quickly here, and this is a lot cleaner a game from Origin. Much better considering their situation, but they're still not out of the woods yet. They have to close this game and win the next one. But it is a good sign that 1-0-4 on Vladimir Xpeke is already too big of a problem for Reason Gaming really to deal with.
Yeah, and he's been keeping up the farm through this game as well. 315 at this stage in the game is a humongous total. 7-2 in terms of kills, 7-2 also in terms of towers, and 10,000 gold advantage, way different from the first game of this series. Now they have a significant gold advantage they can build up into a potential win here. And it is significant enough that it will convert into a large item differential. Again, I believe the last time we looked at Take Fun's item build, it was exactly the same as it is now.
Just about. I think he's picked up Home Guard, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not been able to get out into a lane.
Gets caught as well. There comes the Tornado. Doesn't quite connect onto him. He was able to get away with the Mercury Treads. Kuban taking some hits. Cetera as well. Does get tacked up. He also gets caught. There's the ultimate from Amazing. This could be the beginning of the end for Reason Gaming, as it will be Take Fun jumping into the back lines onto Niels. And now he'll just back away, but this is 4v5. Top tower again will have to be conceded for Reason Gaming. This is looking dire indeed.
This could just be the end of the game as the Super Minions push in. They don't actually have all that much wave clear left anymore. And Origin, very, very strong with this Vladimir here, is looking to push into the base.
Well, this would be a typical time for Origin to win the game. Usually they do it at around 35 minutes. This time it's going to be 32. Origin take the first turret, they take the second, and now they're onto the Nexus turret itself. Reason Gaming are very low. Xpeke will just zone his onto the spawn pad and hoping that his team will finish off the Nexus in time, and indeed they do. They take this series to 1-1. It all comes down to this final game.
That was so much better out of Origin. That was, I mean, it still wasn't clean, but Origin certainly just had a game plan this time around, and it looked like that's what they needed, was put Peke on a champion that he can carry on even in the late game. When it gets to that late, he can just be the voice that's like, oh, I've got this. I've got everything about this game will stop you getting any kind of lead.
Yeah, honestly, Take Fun's Zed, as much as we hyped it up, was a little disappointing in that game. But if you think about the matchup, what does he do? He def marks in, and then there's a Zhonya's, there's a pool. It's also Vladimir. He's just going to kill you. So
yep.
not a lot that he can do. And as you mentioned, like typically he's the one who's split pushing, but he just had to stop the split push from Vlad, and he can't push as fast as a Vladimir once he's built up a couple items.
It's a big problem. A big problem. The thing about it is I don't know whether it's worth banning Vlad, because that's such a specific...
Same as first game. It's not worth banning the Tristana, because that wasn't the problem. It was the idea of the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think actually Reason Gaming's pick ban has actually been solid, right? Up until now, Lulu banned out. They banned the LeBlanc, they banned the Maokai. I actually don't disagree with any of those bans.
Yeah.
Now they got to roll the dice. As they leave the Zed open, do they give Peke the Zed? Do they take it themselves again? Risk the Vladimir? We'll have to see.
Yeah, we will indeed, and it was also very interesting in the game because we were talking about the team compositions from Reason Gaming, and Kog'Maw came out, but there was nothing really to protect the Cog. And multiple times, yes, he got caught a bunch of times by bindings, by ultimates, by Amazing, but at the same time, it wasn't really the same as Game 1, where yes, they had a late game AD carry, but they didn't have a Hecarim, they didn't have a Swajrani, didn't have a Janna for peeling, they just had a Nami who peels a little, and then just people who are going to jump in and try and kill people.
Yeah, and Zayu's ults this game on Sejuani weren't quite as good as the first game. There were a couple that whiffed, especially around the mid lane. We saw that gank where nothing hit, and you saw Take Fun just peace out, and Zayu just died on his own.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for Reason Gaming that there were slight misplays. I still think overall they were solid, but Origin just looked better that game.
Yeah, and it's good to see, because had Origin gone out 2-0 there, that would have, I mean, I don't think it would have even been possible, because we did see them lose a game against Lowland Lions in week 5, but then again, in the second game, they just turned it back around. And yes, this was like an instant turnaround, because they only had a couple minutes between game 1 and game 2. The other time, they had a whole day between, but it was good by Origin to come back, and even so, this is not the position they wanted to be in. They are one game away from going into the third place game. But if they play like that, then they can still make it to the finals.
Was that the kick up the butt that Origin needed, though?
Maybe,
Losing game 1.
And I think is actually very healthy for the team development, because it's like SK was saying in the LCS, we just needed some losses because they had that long win streak and then they just started stagnating. And it's like we just needed, we just needed the kick to show us that we can learn something from these losses and just come back stronger. And as it ended, they came out as the top team.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things is that you can't learn how to win all the time without learning how to lose first, and losing is actually quite an important part, because as you said, it teaches you a lot of lessons that you don't see when you're winning all the time. So maybe Origin just needed that. Maybe the game just didn't feel right for them. I actually will credit Reason a lot on that game one. They played very well from behind. This time they couldn't hold on while behind. That was the difference. I wonder whether we'll see a return to their performance from the first game. While they're on red side, will they look for a last pick Tristana kind of thing again if their comp suits it? There's still a lot on Reason's plate. There's still an even playing field. We're basically down to a best of one now to figure out who's going to the finals.
Yeah, exactly. Neither team is out of it just yet. Origin can still lose, so can Reason Gaming. Either of these teams can go to the finals next week. But after that game, the teams are dead even, and this last game will decide who will progress to the finals and who will fight for scraps in the third place game. Origin, again, is potentially one game away from being denied a chance at auto promotion. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 3.5.